For my rendering techniques project, we've been tasked of finding other media visual styles that can be replicated at runtime. For my project, I've decided to replicate the PlayStation 1 in its original retro style. Some of the key attributes for the style are a low resolution, typically shot in 4:3, reduced poly counts, and limited texture sizes due to the restrictions of the PlayStation 1's processing capabilities. Some of its more unique features are its affine texture mapping and dithering, as well as its vertex snapping, which give it that signature style and are all very unique to the PlayStation. Static vertex lighting is also another limitation, and limited render distance, which is which you can't do because it didn't have the capabilities to render in long distances. Some of the inspirations I have, and the main inspiration for my game or my project, is the Silent Hill 1. Games I'm also inspired by is Resident Evil 2, Final Fantasy 7, and Tomb Raider, which all have some of the style that I want to try and replicate in my game to varying degrees. For the outcome of my project, I would like to have a demo scene the player can run around, a possible game mechanic such as shooting, and I want it to be an accurate depiction of a PlayStation 1 game on modern hardware that people can immediately look at and see where it's got its inspiration from.
Hello, this is my second video for Advanced Technologies, showing the updates I've made to my PlayStation 1 style game. The two bits of progress I made over the last 2 weeks are adding a fog, as well as a pixelization material and material instance. These material instances have parameters that allow you to change how they interact and appear in the world. So for example, for the fog, you can change the distance at which it appears around the player, as well as its colour. And for the pixelization, you can change how pixelated the world actually is. So if I go into the world, you can see that the fog surrounds the player completely, and as you get closer will disappear. And the pixelization, while not too big here, can be changed to have a far bigger effect on the scene and become far more pixelated.
Hello, this is my third video for Advanced Technologies rendering techniques. The first thing I did this week was try and replicate affine texture mapping from the PS1 style, where it would warp the objects or textures as you get close to them. So as we can see, this material, when I get close, it kind of warps it up, kind of diagonal-like. Right now this implementation isn't perfect, as it only really affects one face at a time and doesn't distort as you move. It just distorts it once and kind of leaves it there. And the longer a material is, or a texture, the kind of less it affects it. So I definitely need to take this and try and improve it a little bit for next week. The next thing I did over this week was try to add a dithering effect to my game, where the darker an area is, the more kind of dithering it gets and the more unique it looks. Right now it's a little bit too strong and kind of affects everything far too much and kind of has like a crosshatch pattern everywhere. But it's heading in the right direction. I do think it has promise to it. So at some bits it does look genuinely nice, but sometimes it just goes too much and gets a bit overpowering. This is my final version of the PlayStation 1 retro graphics in Unreal Engine 4. And as you can see, I've got it so that these assets now jiggle when I look around based on the characters. As you move around, you'll notice stuff is jiggling everywhere. I've toned down the implementation of the pixels and also the jitter so they're not quite as jarring, because they were very, very strong and quite painful to look at for a bit. But this is what it looks like, and I'm pretty pleased with the outcome of this. Hello, my name is Tyler Flemans, and this is my first video for Semester 2, generating game assets with AI. For this week, I spent my time researching the resources that were left for us on Blackboard, looking at the text to image generation, the image to 3D model generation, the remastering of classical games with texture upscaling, and a bit more to do with 3D models. After having messed around with these resources on Blackboard, I came to the conclusion of the goals I want for my project. The first is either a text-based AI that can provide a relevant response to player input, something like an RPG where the player can input a class they want and kind of gain a backstory to their class through AI, or a graphics-based AI that can load a level at runtime based on a user input. So a character model, some walls, and stuff like that. I've yet to decide on which one of these I want to actually do yet, but that'll be my goal for the next 2 weeks and to begin a little prototype of that level. This is my second video for Advanced Techniques, generating game assets with AI. As a reminder of my project, I will be using AI to create a D&D character based on the input from the player. In its current state, the player cannot input any text, and the question that I've given it to create the D&D character is hard-coded. However, if I run it, it does run, and it takes a few seconds, but it will generate the overall kind of structure of what I'm looking for. It's not perfect, and right now it does seem to print the same thing over and over again. But once the player is able to actually input their own ideas into what I'll do is like a main page where the player can choose its name, the race they want to be, the class, and then it should generate its own background for the player, and then maybe the stats as well. I also attempted to get AI image generation up and running with DALL-E to print a texture of the character to go along with the text. However, I have not got DALL-E to work with it yet, so that will need to be done for next week. The next steps for this project are to input fields for players to interact for the AI prompt, so that the AI can take the inputs from the player and use that to create a customized D&D character, and the player can leave them blank if they want, so that the AI can do it for them. Encourage OpenAI API to randomize the background more, because currently it seems to be just printing the same thing. It will change the name but not much else. As well as to fix the DALL-E image generation so that a texture will appear next to the character, and hopefully it will represent it quite well. Hello, my name is Tyler Flemans, and this is my third video on Advanced Tech, generating game assets with AI. The first bit of progress I made was designing a main menu for the player to input some text into some text fields that can then be used to make the prompt for the character D&D profile. So if I run the project, it will bring up these 3 text fields that the player can input a name, a race, and a class. They can then press enter, and it will then add those to the prompt that's sent off to the AI, and then it will bring back this data set. Right now, it's not linked up, obviously, because I haven't found a way to store the variables and then put them into the prompt and send it off. So that'll be something I need to work on. Another thing I messed around with is the prompt is currently hard-coded into the project. I messed around with it and rewrote it a couple times to try and get it as accurate and as easy to understand as possible, with reducing the words, because otherwise it kept going too much and including equipment and stuff that just was unnecessary and not important. So right now I think it's pretty simple to understand for the AI. It comes back quick. Obviously it will need more changes once I get the player inputs in, but it should still help me in the future. For the next steps for this project, I need to fully integrate the player inputs into the AI prompts so that when I receive the output from OpenAI, it's actually relevant to what the players put in. I also want to design some just simple UI, nothing too much, just enough to kind of make it a little less boring. And then more of a stretch goal, but if I can, I would love to fix the DALL-E image generation that's currently in the files, but just does not work. It just doesn't output anything, and I'm really stuck on why. This is my final implementation for AI Advanced Tech. Unfortunately, the input fields for this bit do not store variables properly, so I've had to bypass this and ignore it, and instead I've just put 3 variables in the actual thing for it to still work. So if I run it now and just press enter, it will load up this little bit of text here that gives you a little description about your character, and then the 3 variables here. If I go here and change this to something else, and then replay, it should update it, change it, give us a new prompt. So yeah, the AI works perfectly fine. I just have a skill issue with Godot and haven't managed to figure out how to do it yet. And also, as a final note, I cannot put this key in this project, so it will be taken out and it will be in the in a text file to be implemented. Otherwise, if I upload it in this file, OpenAI will just suspend the key and it won't work.